The most enjoyable parts of my role is actually just leading the team. So there's 8 in our team and we're the planning and regulation function. And it's a privilege to lead the bunch of people I lead. They're fantastic. And I feel a huge onus on me to make sure that the workplace that they come to every day is somewhere where they feel valued. I want them to feel valued. I want them to enjoy their work, because if you're happy in your work, you're going to work better. And life is too short not to be happy in your work and to feel respect in their job. It's a very people-centric organisation. I want to reciprocate that for others.
Welcome to Workplus, the podcast that shines a light on the people doing good work across Northern Ireland. I'm your host, Richard Kirk, founder of Workplus. I've spent years working with employers, schools, colleges and universities, helping young people and career changers to make better informed career decisions. Each week, I sit down with real people doing real jobs to explore how they got there, what they've learned, and why their work matters. If you're a parent, teacher, carer, or just curious about what good work looks like today, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Claire, so delighted to have you join us today in the studio.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Back a little, thinking back to when you were at school.
Yes.
What were the subjects that you loved doing?
Well, the class that I most enjoyed was actually probably anything to do with sports. I always like PE, I'll always like games, and I think it sort of got me out running around, whatever the sport happened to be. And then as I sort of honed in towards the A-levels I ended up taking were actually geography, history and politics, which is maybe a little unusual given that I ended up in accountancy. Some people look shocked and say, was it not maths? And I always enjoyed maths, but geography, history, politics more floated my boat and were sort of where my natural interests fell.
Yeah. And was that something that those advising you, whether your teachers or family, were they encouraging you in that area, or were they just like, no, those are the 3 that I want to take on?
I think they were I took politics up as an A-level. I hadn't done it previously, but it was probably my interest in history, and they sat quite naturally together. Geography and history I just liked. I was maybe a little nerdy that way. I would still find myself poring over maps. I love maps and things like that. And anything sort of geopolitical, I'd always have an interest. And history, I would quite often be digging out maybe family trees or trying to do a bit of research in that. So just always had a natural interest, and I followed that interest. And I didn't really know where that would lead me to. I didn't know. I didn't have my eyes set in any particular career, but I was following my heart.
Yeah, that's good. Good. That's good to hear. And what about, so you're playing sports, love playing sports. Yeah. What about life outside school in terms of, like, did you do any work experience that was organised by your school? Did you have a part-time job while you were at school?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So whenever I was in school, I actually worked in our local village bakery, and I worked after school and on a Saturday morning, and it was great. I loved it. It was, you were part of a team. You were on the tills, you were maybe cleaning the floor, you were restocking shelves, and I really enjoyed just meeting people, members of the public as well. You learnt a lot, and it taught me just the importance of keeping somewhere very clean and taking a pride in your work. Mm-hmm. And it got me a little bit of extra money, which was always useful at the weekend.
That's good.
So, yeah. And that was at school. And then whenever I went to university, I did a number of jobs over the summer. So one summer I worked as a lifeguard in the local pool. And that was really, really enjoyable. But I guess there was a responsibility on your shoulders because there were people swimming in front of you, and ultimately you were there to keep an eye. And if somebody went under, it was your job to make sure you brought them back to the surface. So you're always very conscious that, you had to be very vigilant at all times. I also worked as a home help one summer. So that was, you went into people's homes, maybe gave them a hand, maybe made them their lunch, or went and did their shopping, or set their fire for them. So just anything that they needed you to help them with. And that gave you an insight into just loads of different people's lives and what's behind other people's doors. And sometimes people can find life quite challenging. So I guess even in terms of just empathy and understanding that everybody else's life doesn't look at all like yours potentially. And then another summer I worked as an electoral canvasser, which was you went round in those days and you would have asked people had they filled in their electoral registration form so they could go and vote. And I would have knocked on hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of doors and asked people had they filled in their form, and if they hadn't, I would have filled it in for them. So that was great in terms of giving you an insight into people and just all the variety of people you would meet as you did your what was known as a ward. And you also had to work independently. So that was good. And you had to make sure that within a month or two, you had covered whatever number of homes you had to go through. So you had to sort of self-manage. So loads of jobs, and all of those jobs taught me very different things, which I guess are very transferable into what I even do today, even though I didn't realise at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned self-management there with the electoral canvasser role.
Yes.
And what were some of the other skills then on reflection that you look back and go, that's where I started to develop this skill or this attribute?
I think one of the core skills that you need in my role today, it's people. It's being able to work with people. We work as a team. I don't have the answers in terms of what we do, but together as a team, we'll always figure it out, and we'll get there. And whether that be the team that I manage and lead or the team that I work with within NIE at senior management level, it's all about teamwork. And I guess those roles taught me a lot about sort of that we're much more effective whenever we all work together, and being able to work with people. And sometimes you'll meet tricky people, and it's just being able to handle something diplomatically and be able to get out the other side of it and make sure that we come out with the best end result for everybody.
Yeah. So so say there's a young person listening to this or a parent thinking, we're really struggling just to get part-time work or a job, how did those experiences, like the bakery, the lifeguard, the canvasser role, the home help role, how did they all come about? Did you have to like push into those and find those, or was it someone around you that helped them? Helped you, sorry?
No, I would have found those roles. I probably was always keen to be able to earn my own money.
Yeah.
So whenever it's at the bakery, I didn't really get pocket money, so I knew that I had to go out and find a job, and I wanted to work. I knew the people. It was a tiny village. I knew the people in the bakery. I just went in and I knew their names and just asked them, had they any work? And sure enough, I got a job. I was absolutely delighted. I got paid £2 an hour, and I thought I was minted. But no, I'd have gone and just kept an eye out, and they came from me. Nobody else was pushing me, but they were great experiences.
Good. Yeah. And you did geography, history and politics then at A level.
Yes.
What did the next step after that look like? How did that come about? Did you go to university?
Yes.
How did you come to choose your course?
So I decided, yes, I wanted to go to university. And again, I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career. I certainly hadn't got my heart set on becoming an accountant at all. And I think it's quite difficult whenever you're that age, because you don't really know what jobs involve. You might have an idea, but it's very hard when somebody says, what do you want to spend the rest of your life doing? But because of the subjects I was doing, sort of the geography, particularly the history and the politics and maybe the essay writing and so forth, I was starting to lean towards law. And that, I guess I was encouraged a little bit in school within, by my teachers, that might be a career you might want to think about. So I applied for law at Queen's, and again, I wasn't 100% certain. And Queen's actually offers courses where you can do law and potentially French or Spanish. Or I decided to take law and accounts. So I did like a joint degree, and and that was in reflection. That was a great move. I loved the course, met many good friends, and those were great years. Yeah,
brilliant. So, having not done maths, for example, at A level, how did that work out for you? Was there some latent GCSE maths that was there, or had you always, although your subjects might not have indicated that, being an analytical person, somebody likes working with numbers? Or
I always liked maths, and the numbers they were easy enough sort of to manage, but I don't know, I never did maths very well. It never even crossed my mind, probably because I didn't have a passion in any way for maths. Maybe did a little bit of research on accountancy, and you could go into accountancy and you didn't have to have a maths background. You need to be competent, yes, in numbers, but certainly you do not need to have I didn't even do further maths at GCSE. So you don't need that. You just need to be able to be competent in working with the numbers. And actually, when I look at the role now, yes, there's numbers always in the spreadsheet, but it's more about bringing them to life in the bigger picture, maybe putting together presentations and graphs. And there's definitely an analytical part which sits me down to the ground. Yeah.
So it's the communication of those numbers rather than the numbers just as a pure...
Absolutely. The numbers mean nothing. It's the story behind the numbers and what those numbers tell us about our business and what we want to do and where we need to drive in terms of the future. So it's bringing them to life and getting under the bonnet of the numbers. Yeah.
So you did law with accounting then at a university. So was it a jump straight into NIE at that point, or did you do something else before that?
No, so I did law and accounts, and I then I'd got another job as well, and I worked for a solicitor. And on a Monday morning, I would have gone down to the law courts, and they used to call over the cases to say whether or not the cases were ready to run. And I would just say yes if they were ready or not. So I worked there for probably about a year doing that for the solicitor. So I got an insight into that legal world. And I decided it wasn't somewhere that I couldn't see myself fitting into that. That wasn't for me. So maybe potentially by a process of elimination, I was leaning and thinking maybe not the law. Plus the modules in accountancy that I was doing as I went through university, I really enjoyed. And I enjoyed just the way that sort of made you tick. So that was good. I was happy with that. I also took a year where I went to the States on the Business Education Initiative, and I went to a college in the States and studied there for a year. And that gave me very itchy feet. So I came home, I did my final year at Queen's, and I thought I might want to go away again. And I was worried that law was too jurisdictional. I might have to do additional exams. I wanted to transfer that to a different country. But the accountancy could travel easier. The accountancy, if you, it is more internationally recognised. Yes. So that was another reason for my leaning towards accountancy. So I graduated from Queen's. I had done the milk round, and I'd applied to the big accountancy firms, and I ended up taking a job with Ernst & Young, who are now known as EY. And I did a training contract for 3.5 years. And at the same time you study. I studied alongside going to working. So Monday to Friday you were working. Potentially you'd have worked long enough hours sometimes in audit. And then on a Saturday I would have gone to classes, and you'd been classes from 9 to 5 on a Saturday. Which, when I reflect back, that was pretty tough. That was hard going. But all of your peer group were going through it, and you didn't think anything of it, and you enjoyed your Saturday night when you got there. I don't regret it. It was great learning. EY was a great place to start my career on. But I moved for them from audit once I qualified. I moved from audit to corporate tax, spent a year there, decided, this is not where my future lies. Wanted to go to potentially an industry or into business. And a role came up in NIE, and it was actually a temporary maternity cover. And I wrangled with it and thought, do I want to leave a permanent job to go to a temporary job? And I thought, no, I'm going to take the leap here, because that's where my future is, definitely business, industry. NIE is a great name, great reputation. I'll go, and even if I can't turn this into a permanent job, I will still be, I'll have a good name on my CV. So I took a leap of faith. I went to NIE, and thankfully within about 6 months I got made permanent, which I was delighted for. And the rest is history. Yes. So.
Well, that's fantastic. And what has it been about NIE that you've loved so much then as an organisation?
Well, the organisation I joined 20 years ago is a very different organisation to what it is today. NIE has recreated itself, and NIE is in a huge growth phase at the moment. We are very much responding to sort of that need to rebuild the network. You might say the big network rebuild, and also in terms of just there's an energy transition to sort of pivot to decarbonise. There's a response to climate change. There's huge change in the business and the investment in the network which is needed as a result of that. So it has recreated itself, and the roles that I have done, I've done many different roles within finance, and they have all been varied. And as I have worked my way around the various finance roles, I've had a family along the way, and I've had several maternity leaves, and I've had loads of different flexibilities in terms of my working arrangements. So quite a while ago, whenever I had my first maternity leave, I came back to a job share, and at that point in time that was pretty unheard of. And it was quite a novel idea, and it worked really, really well. And I then worked on a 3-day week, a 4-day week, and I'm now back up to 5 days. But that flexibility and support that I've had has been fantastic, and it's allowed me to stick with my career, because I never wanted to leave the workplace. But sometimes you do need that support to get you through. So because NIE is a big part of your life, but it's not huge, it's not your whole life. It's you've got the other things going on with family and being a parent and the likes as well. Absolutely. It's great that they're there to support you and recognise that through it all. No, they've been fantastic supportive employers. So And the roles, the various roles, and they're changing. And even the role I'm in at the moment, it's continuing to evolve and develop and change. And because the business never stands still, the business is always changing and responding to the needs that are there. So your role sort of changes accordingly.
I'd love to dig into that a bit more, because you've talked about the network rebuild, which is to make sure that the network is able to allow us to move towards a lower carbon future. So, but what is your role? What is the accounting role that you have, or what are the new skills that you're having to develop in order to support that aspiration of the organisation?
Well, from a finance perspective, we will forecast out. So I work in the planning, and we will be forecasting out always on a 5-year basis. But actually, we look beyond 5 years, and we actually look out 10 years and potentially even beyond 10 years. So it's a huge period of investment. There's an awful lot of expenditure required in terms of this upgrade and allowing the network to pivot. And we are looking at we build up those numbers, and then we're looking at how are we going to fund this? How are we going to finance it? And we also then will look at the regulatory side of things. So because we're a monopoly, we have a price control set for us, and that price control set for 6 years. So in terms of actually landing that contract and agreeing that contract with our regulator, I'd be involved in the financial side of that in terms of what are the allowances and how making sure that the package that's put together is financeable from NIE's perspective, but also for the end customer, that it's affordable for the end customer as well. So we're trying to balance all of that. So it's a really interesting role. And yes, as the business grows, the amount of planning and thought that is needed increases. So it keeps you don't rest on your laurels for too long. You always are sort of looking at the next thing that's coming down the tracks.
Yeah. And as you look back on your own career, but now you think even about people coming in that you're responsible for, like how have you enjoyed seeing other people come through below you as well?
Yeah. So I would say one of the most important parts of my role and one of the most enjoyable parts of my role is actually just it's leading the team. So there's 8 in our team, and we're the planning and regulation function. And it's a privilege to lead the bunch of people I lead. They're fantastic. And I feel a huge onus on me to make sure that the workplace that they come to every day is somewhere where they feel valued. I want them to feel valued. I want them to enjoy their work, because if you're happy in your work, you're going to work better, and life is too short not to be happy in your work. And to feel respected in their job. So we're all about, it's a very people-centric organisation. We're all about making sure we can be the best that we can be in terms of employing people, and making sure that people can bring their best selves to work, and that they can be the best they can be in their roles, and that where they want that growth and development, that we're helping to facilitate that. And it's been facilitated for me, and absolutely I want to reciprocate that for others. And it's brilliant seeing people grow and develop and take on new pieces of work, and for their confidence to flourish. So it's a privilege, and it's a really, really important part of the role.
Yeah, because you said earlier in the conversation about you don't have all the solutions to the problem, but as a team,
absolutely,
that it's putting all those heads together. I think that's something really powerful about that.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely we have to work together, and we get an end result delivered. And hopefully, everybody should feel a part of that we're all striving to head in the same direction. Yeah.
So if you were to sit here now and talk to your 16-year-old self, what would you say to her?
I would say, if you're choosing your career, and sometimes at 16 it's hard to know what direction and where you should end up, but if you're choosing something where you can, I would follow things that you enjoy. If you can follow your passion, follow your passion. But you spend a long time working, and if you can do something that you enjoy, you'll bring a better you to work. You'll do better. You'll be naturally curious. You'll grow more. And if you can follow your passion, that's a great place to be. I would also say that you can, as you go through your career, there'll be great points. There'll be peaks, but there's also going to be troughs. And not to view whenever those tough times come, just to embrace them. Because probably when I was 16, I looked at the world through rose-tinted spectacles, and there's times whenever, you'll get a knock, don't let that not keep you down. Get back up again and be resilient and dig deep, because those are the times I think that really do shape you and form you, and they will hone your skills and make you better at what you're doing. So don't get back up again whenever they do happen, and just live life to the max. Play hard and work hard, and when the opportunities come by, grasp them with both hands.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, the last question, and it's one that we ask all our guests, is raising it up a level just to work. For you, Claire, what is so good about work?
So I work for an organisation where our vision is about delivering a sustainable energy system for all, and it is all about the decarbonisation and pivoting electricity and the energy system so we can decarbonise and respond to climate change. And that's something that I can subscribe to in a heartbeat. So it totally aligns with, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and the values of NIE, they align with my personal values. So it's very, very easy to fit in. It's a great place to work because, it is the only company in the UK that has got a triple accreditation for investors and people, which is such a tremendous accolade. And, working there, I know how that has happened. It's completely people-centric. It's about people. So it's a privilege just to be part of that. Also, just turning up for work every day. Every day is different, and the role will evolve. You have new challenges, and I enjoy what I do, and I really, really enjoy all the people that I work with. So feel actually very fortunate to be working in the organisation.
Great. Well, your love for the people you work with comes across really strongly, Claire. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today, and wish you all the best in your future career.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Workplus. If today's story gave you fresh perspective or helped you rethink what's possible, leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform or hit like and subscribe. It really does make a big difference. For more stories, resources, and tools to help guide the next generation, visit workplus.app. Until next time.